All right, so we're going to get started tonight. So tonight we are going to be going over step 3. And every time we get into step 3, you know, it's always important to really understand like what brought us to step 3. If we understand that 1, 2, and 3 is the solution, we kind of talked about that a little bit. How many of you guys have been here for steps 1 and step 2 that we've already done? Okay, so you guys should definitely know what we're talking about. So when we look at step 1, we look at that step being the only step we have to get 100% right. Fully conceding to our innermost self that we're alcoholics. That chapter, more about alcoholism, that step gave us a couple different things. We read that to, part of it to start the meeting. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. The obsession that somehow, someday we'll be able to control and enjoy our using is the great obsession of every abnormal user, and the persistence of the illusion is astonishing that will pursue into the gates of insanity or death. I'll continue to try to pursue this illusion that I can control and enjoy it. Right? And again, that for me, when I could control somewhat and enjoyed it a whole hell of a lot, that was 1997, sophomore year of high school, Cactus High School, go Cobras. All right? Right? That's it. That's all I remember. I don't remember the 10 years of prison. I don't remember the dope sickness, the ass whoopings, the homelessness, my family crying. I don't remember any of that. All I remember is 1997. And it's an illusion. I can never get back to that point. We talked about self-knowledge not being good enough. We talked about why it's a thinking problem, because I think that this time will be different, despite evidence that I've collected for 20 years. That shows me it ain't ever going to be different. I never stop before I got to see my PO. I never stop when my color comes up on a Friday night. I'm like, I'm going to flush all weekend. It's not a big deal, right? I always violate. I always go back to prison. I always, and I'm old school, so I end up on Van Buren, right? That's where I go. Heading on to dudes on 20 speed, but 10 speeds. Like, hey, what's up, brother? And then they look at me and they think I'm a cop, so I got to pull up my prison profile. Like, look, homie, this shit checks out, right? That's where it takes me every time, but I think that this time I can do it one time, right? We read cunning, baffling, and powerful. We're going to talk a little bit about that in step 3. The baffling feature of addiction is the utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. I could see it in every aspect of my life. I could wish it, I could see it. I don't want to get high, but I can't not use. That's baffling. So we talked about several different things in that chapter. And so going through all that, plus the doctor's opinion, plus really relating the first 9 pages of Bill's story, then getting into there as a solution, understanding all the different things that we have to go through, the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the real description of the alcoholic, right? Why it centers in our mind rather than our body. We have to identify with all these things, and that carries us into step 1. And after collecting all the data, sitting with a sponsor, him relating his experiences, you identifying them as your own. That's why sponsorship works, because we're the same. We all suffer from the same illness. It's not a drug problem, it's the alcoholic mentality. The alcoholic mentality is our character defects. We all have the same ones. We all suffer from them. That carried us into We Agnostics, which we went over 2 weeks ago, right? When we went over We Agnostics, what that was designed for is to rebuttal you before you could have any sort of objection to believing in a higher power. And we went over that, right? We talked about why having morals and values, just having those and wanting to your actions to reflect them wasn't good enough because the power wasn't there. And remember, then from there we transitioned. If you were prejudiced by the idea of God and it was pushed on you, impressed on you as a child, right? And I always use the one simple tool: good orderly direction, G-O-D, right? Let's just, when you see that word, that's what it means. Okay, and we moved on from there. And then we talked about having to fully define, right? And so, we just want you to believe, came to believe in a power. You don't have to fully define, you don't have to comprehend the power, you just have to admit the possibility of an existence, right? You don't have to believe what I believe, it's open to everybody, and you'll get results, right? And so we went from there. Then we talked about just having faith, right? Obviously, you guys are still sitting here right now because you got a little bit of faith that some shit's going to get better for you, or you wouldn't be here right now. So you can't tell me that any one of you guys in this room doesn't have the capacity for faith, else we wouldn't be sitting here right now, right? Stepping from bridge to shore. And we talked about the material possessions. We do it all the time. I just did it with material possessions. I got hustled by a Target cell phone dude. I love a good sale. Yeah. Pulled up on me. Got that S22. That's what recovery looks like for me today. The internal happiness is what is important to me, but don't get it twisted. I do like material things too. It doesn't define my happiness, right? But I'm able to do those things today, and it's a pretty cool thing. But we talked about our readiness to change our point of view with material things because we do it all the time. Why not your readiness to change your point of view? Why? Because we couldn't control our emotional natures. We were prey to misery and depression. We couldn't be of real usefulness to anyone, right? So it talked about those bedevilments, right? That's why we should have our readiness to change our point of view, because what we were believing before obviously wasn't working, right? And then it wrapped it up with one whole story. So after that, I gave you guys a little bit of homework, whether you guys choose to do it or not. It's your program. I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm just here to love you and support you on your way. And I tell everyone, I work in recovery. I try to help as many people as I can, and I work in like agriculture. I just go around planting some seeds and shit, and hopefully one day maybe they'll grow. Come throw a little water on it on Saturday nights, dude, and that's my plan. That's why I'm here. And so that leads us into step 3, which we're going to talk about tonight. And the reason I recap all that and bring that all back to life is because we really have to understand that. Because like we previously talked about, steps 1, 2, and 3 is real easy. There are 2 conclusions in a decision. It's like fucking powerless and back at crossroads again. Yeah, unmanageable. Yeah, I got shit. Yeah, it's pretty unmanageable. And it checks out real fucking quick. Step 1, done. Oh, came to believe? I believe. Done. I did that. Oh, you want me to make a decision now? What do I got to decide to do? Will and life, God, done. Just did it. Here we are. I'm on step 4, but I don't know any of it, right? So we're going to talk about how to actually apply that today, right? And we're going to brush up on all that, and I'm going to talk to you about what will and life means, your thoughts and your actions. Because last time, if there's anything you guys heard last time, I wanted you to hear one thing. And that one thing, which was the homework, to identify the spiritual characteristics of what you believe God to be. And why that's important, because you're about to make a decision when you get to the 3rd step to let your actions reflect it. So if you haven't identified that, you're just making a decision just to decide to do something. And I want to remind you guys of one thing. Goals you don't achieve are good ideas. Right? I've had a lot of good ideas, but today I get to achieve some goals. I got out of prison a year ago after doing an 8-year prison sentence, and I had all these goals, man. I had detailed action steps associated with every single one of them, and I achieved every single goal within the first 6 months of being out, and I've added to it, dude, and they just continue to grow, right? Goals you don't achieve are good ideas. We need to get in the habit of achieving some goals. And also, when we achieve goals, those goals require character assets. How do I understand if I'm living in God's will? When I'm achieving goals, I'm committed, I'm honest, right? I'm obviously sober, right? And so that allows me to get in the habit of practicing character asset. So the point that I was getting at was, when we talked about your conception of a higher power, it doesn't matter what I believe. So if you believe in laws of attraction, right? And I want to put positive vibes out to the universe and I get it in return. How do you put positive vibes out to the universe? Well, you'd be loving and sober and honest and tolerant, forgiving, and you'd be committed. Right? If Jesus is your higher power and God's your higher power, then if you were to describe character assets, if you wanted to reflect God and mirror God, your actions to mirror Him as best you can, how would you do that? You'd be loving, you'd be sober, you'd be honest, you'd be tolerant, you'd be forgiving. If you believe in the karmic cycle, right, in karma, well, how do you do that? Loving, sober, right? It's all the same. Yeah. It all drives you back to the same point. So now what we're deciding to do today, or if you've been on your 3rd step, if you previously went, maybe you might want to reaffirm it, maybe you'll understand a little bit more, or maybe this will be adding to the knowledge that you already have. But either way, I'm deciding now to let my actions reflect that. But I'm human, I'm going to do dumb shit, I do stupid things all the time, right? I try to design my day around the least amount of opportunity to act like a moron, because I will take full advantage, right? So I got to structure my day around getting a win, right? I'll take losses, but the sum of my actions on a day-to-day basis has to represent the man that I want to be. And when I see that man in the mirror, I don't want to change the way I feel anymore. So we're going to go over step 3 today. So we're on chapter 5, page 58. So this is what we read in the beginning of every single meeting, and I know some of you guys are making some marks and notes in your book, and I would encourage you to make some in this chapter, but that is completely up to you. So if you are, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to cross out rarely, and I want you to write never, right? So when Bill W. was on his deathbed, he was surrounded by his wife Lois and some of his friends from the fellowship, right? And he was getting ready to die, and they were saying, Bill W., is there anything you would change about this program? Is there anything you would change, man? And he said, yeah, there is. There's one thing. That one thing is one word. That one word I would change rarely to never. Never have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. This shit works every time if you work it, but you got to be all in. If you got even a toe out, dude, you're not going to get the results. Once you go in like your life depends upon it, like we talked about, and there is a solution, be members of a shipwreck, the book being your life preserver, the fellowship helps you float. And when we survive that together, your fellowship, your brotherhood, we're joined in brotherly and harmonious action. That's what we talked about from there as a solution. So never have we seen a person fail who's thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely, circle that, completely give themselves to this program, simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They're not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They're naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what we're like now, what happened, what we're like now. if you've decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. Willing to go to any length. Remember, we talked about step 1. If I am in the grip of a progressive illness, that tells me I have to have an extremely aggressive recovery. And I look around this room tonight and I see a lot of individuals like myself. And I could wake up in the morning on this fucking behind some oleanders by a grease trap behind Jimmy Jack's on Van Buren. Oh, you know where that's at, brother?
Yeah, I
Oh shit! You're in the right place, dude. Right? You wake up back there, dude. No money, no nothing. Best believe I'm picking up 3 times a day. No phone. Hey, brother, let me borrow your phone. I'm not gonna steal it. Real quick. 1 call. Make 15 calls. He's pissed. Right? Take him hostage at that Chevron.
At the Paradise Motel.
Yeah. Right. Right? So I have to be willing to go to any lengths for my recovery. I have to be willing to go to far greater lengths. And I've typically, anytime, you know, when you pick up a sponsor, or when I pick up a sponsor, that's usually my first question. Are you willing to go to any lengths? If you say yes, then I'm willing to help you at any lengths. Right? But I can't want it more than you do. Again, if I could, I'd be standing down there at the QT like Oprah. You get recovery and you get recovery. I'd be slapping recovery in the chest of everyone out there. Right? But it don't work that way. Okay. You guys with me? All right. Okay. All right. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we cannot. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. So completely, absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. We talked about in the beginning when we first started talking about step 3, what the baffling feature is. It's from step 1, the utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. Why is it cunning? Well, it's cunning because occasionally, right, sometimes it'll let you get away with smoking a joint, not fucking smoke crack after that, right? Occasionally, dude, it'll let you go out on a Friday night and come home. Occasionally, you can do certain things that might have a resemblance to some control. And the next thing you know, dude, you're powerless again, dude, and everything in your life is unmanageable. So it's cunning, and it plays tricks with our mind. It centers in our mind. It hijacks our brain, right? And it's powerful. Why? Because it takes all power from us, dude. I don't want to get high, but here I am, dude. I have no control. I have no say in the matter. I don't want to do it. I've literally got high crying, dude, because I don't want to do this shit anymore, but I can not use. That's powerless. Remember, powerless is internal and manageable is external. That's the difference between the two. Okay. Without help there is too much for us, but there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures avail us nothing. So completely, absolutely, half measures nothing. It's all or nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. So now we're going to get to all the steps. You know, we read this in every single meeting, guys. You guys hear this all the time. But what I want to take the opportunity and the time to do, because you hear people all the time say, you got to practice the principles in all your affairs. I just practice the principles in all my affairs, brother. My favorite thing to ask him is, well, what principles are you talking about here? I mean, you know, what are we even talking about? What's the principles? Who could tell me what the principles are? Program. Sure, there's a lot of answers. There's like 52 or something overall in the book that you could actually pull out. But typically we're talking about 12 specific principles. Each principle is associated with every single step. And in order to thoroughly and honestly work that step, you have to practice that principle. And if you've got all the way through your 12 steps and you've been committed and you've been consistent, then you've started to attain all of these character assets, principles, if you will, as part of who you are. Does anyone know what they are? Okay, so step 1, you're right. So you can write it next to the numbers. First one's honesty.
Anybody got an extra pen?
So honesty, that's the first one. All right. Okay. Honesty, right? So why is that important? Well, if I'm going to admit powerless and unmanageability, right, then I got to be honest about that. I've lied to myself for way too long. If I'm going to fully concede to my innermost self that I'm an alcoholic and an addict, and I'm going to look at the first 51 pages of the big book in order to diagnose myself, because I'm not here to diagnose anyone. In order to do that, I got to be honest with myself. Second one is hope. Number 2 is hope. Came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. So I have some hope that if I believe in this power, that I could be restored to sanity. That would also reference that I am insane. We've talked previously, remember, we're here to recover from this thing of the hopeless condition of mind and body, not to be recovering. The book says recovered 17 times. It says recovering 1 time in the book. We're here to recover from this thing. Recover meaning what? The mental obsession to physical allergy, the obsession to want to change the way I feel has been removed. Also, another good description of being recovered is when character defects don't feel so good anymore. Today, if I lie to someone or steal something or manipulate anyone or miss a commitment or harm anyone in any way, shape, or form, that doesn't sit right with me. But for a long time, dude, that was just another day in the life. Dude, I didn't lose no sleep over it. Well, I really didn't sleep very much, but if I was to sleep, I know surely it wouldn't have kept me up. So that shows me that what? Sanity has returned. So number 2 is hope. Number 3 is faith. Made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as we understood Him, right? So I gotta have a little bit of hope that if I make this decision and I align my actions with my higher power's will, and I might not even understand truly what that is, that's why I talked about establishing some morals and values and spiritual characteristics, right? I gotta have some hope and faith that if I do that, things will get better for me. Number 3 is faith. Number 4 is courage. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Why is it for courage? I'll tell you, because you're going to face every single thing that you've been running from your whole life. If I went around this room and asked you why you get high, and other than I guess a good answer would be I like the effect. But other than that, you can't tell me it's fun, because I don't know the last time I had very much fun living in an abandoned house with a candle, trying to steal power from the neighbor, boosting fucking sub sandwiches from the Albertsons. You know what I mean? That wasn't very much fun, right? So you'll get the why when you look at the 4-step. It's the causes of our conditions. It's the what caused our failure. The flaws in our makeup which caused our failure. And you have to be courageous to face it, because if you're anything like me, you've been running from it for 20 years. So it's going to take a little bit of courage to face that, because drugs and alcohol is the solution to your 4th and 5th step. But you don't have that. That's why it's number 4, because you came to believe, made a decision, established a relationship with a higher power, and that relationship, that power will carry you through it and provide that courage in your heart to take that action. Number 5 is integrity. Admitted to God, to ourselves, another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. A lot of people would think that maybe that one should be the honesty step, because it's about getting honest. There's a paragraph in the 5th step that says honest like 4 different times, right? Sure, you're going to get honest about a couple things, but I'll tell you why it's integrity. If I sit down to do a 5th step with you, and I'm all right, let's go, let's do it. I break the ice, and usually you feel real comfortable after you hear all my stuff. But after that, right, and you start telling me everything, if I say, that's all you got, that's everything, dude, you know? They can't hold anything back, and you say, yep, that's it. Well, then that's what integrity means, right? Doing the next right thing even if no one would know if you didn't. I surely don't know. I have some tricks, and so, I got some things, some signs that I can kind of pull out of them if I think, if I ask them, is there anything, and you're like, oh shit, that probably means there's something more, right? So that's why it's integrity, because you got to be the one that gets it all the skeletons out of the closet. We bring it from the dark to the light, and it takes the power out of it. 6 is willingness. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. It's one paragraph. We'll talk about 6 and 7, and when we get to that point of the step study, when we do it. But we're become willing to remove the character defects, remove the objectionable, right? The reason why those character defects are so hard to shake is because for a long time they held an extreme amount of value to me. When I lied to mom, when I manipulated mom, well, I'm a telemarketer too, previously. Was a telemarketer, I should say that. Lie, cheat, manipulate, steal. Those were tools and assets of the job, right? So those are so hard to shake, right? Because I use them. They have value to me. So I have to be willing to let go, remove myself from the objectionable. The objectionable I've identified through 4 and 5. Willingness. 7 is humility. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Got to practice some humility. Amen actually comes at the end of the 7-step prayer, not the 3rd-step prayer, in my opinion, if you will. It's a continuance. It's one big prayer. But what's the definition of humility? The easiest way that I can explain, if you look it up in the dictionary, it'll throw you for a loop, right? Being teachable and coachable. Keep an ego in check. And the way I do that is by being teachable and coachable, asking for help, and not be afraid to ask questions and admit when I don't know something. Sometimes being humble just means listening. Okay, so humility. 8 is brotherly love. So 8's brotherly love, right? We're going to make a list of all the people we owe amends to. Made a list of all persons we had harmed, became willing, keyword, willing to make amends to them all. 9 is discipline. So 9's discipline because it's a lifelong process. Not only will I not be able to make amends to every single person I've harmed when I get to my 9th step, because I harmed every single person that came into my life, so I surely can't make them in a week, so I got to be disciplined to make those amends immediately, right? And not only that, I'm human, I'll continue to harm people, and I will continue to owe amends as I go along. So I have to be disciplined to make them right away. Here's an example, right? I was going down to New Freedom, right? I had some sponsees over there. Was going down there all the time. A bunch of people that are coming there from the yard. I show up there one day to do some step work with the sponsee, and I look out the corner of my eye and I see a dude I owe about $1,000 to from the yard. And I'm like, oh damn, dude. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah, you know what I gotta do? I gotta make this amends, man. So I went up to him and I was like, hey, you know, and he didn't really recognize me because I was about 40 pounds heavier.
No sweat mustache.
Yeah, no sweat mustache, didn't have to shit a softball, right? And I was ready to roll, dude. So I make an amends to this man, right? I own it. I use the 5-step amends process, which we'll talk about more when we get there. How can I make this right? I'm willing to do whatever it takes. You know, I was wrong when right? And so he's like, nah, man, you look great, dude. I heard you're doing a lot of amazing things, helping a lot of people out here, and I'm really proud of you. I said, all right, man, I appreciate it, but here's my number. If there's anything I could ever do to make this right, I'm willing to do it. Sure as shit, he called me a week later and said, hey, brother, I need some Nike Air Maxes. 2 pairs. And I'm like, you know what? I got you, dude. I went down to the famous footwear, bought him 2 pairs of Nike Air Max, brought my daughter with me to be of service to see what that looks like. And we went down there and brought them. He called me again, right? I need some clothes. I got you, right? He called me again and said, hey, brother. I said, hey, brother. Yeah, I love you. The best thing I can give you from here on out is my time. You know what I mean? And so we still talk today. But I was disciplined to be able to do that, because here's the thing. If I'm not disciplined to do that, now when I walk into that facility, I'm going to be like, oh, shit, does he see me? Oh, he knows. Oh, dude, that's that old me again, man. I don't want to feel that way ever again. Now I walk in there with my head held high. I know I did the right thing, right? So we got to be disciplined to make these amends. 10 is perseverance. Continue to take personal inventory when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. The reason why it's perseverance is the very beginning of step 10 says this will continue for a lifetime. Continue to watch out for fear, dishonesty, resentment, and selfishness. Right? And then it also says what we have is a daily reprieve. A reprieve is a stay from execution. This disease wants us dead. I got a daily stay from execution, contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. So I gotta have some perseverance to get through this thing, because this is going to be a daily fight. And also a vision for you, very end, says trudge the road of happy destiny. Okay. 11 is awareness of God. So 11 is how do I maintain God's will the majority of my day, you know, versus the amount of time that I operate on what I want to do. And 12 is service. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry the message to other alcoholics to practice these principles in all our affairs. So now when you see practice the principles in all your affairs, or people say that, and I love asking them what the principles are, now you know them. And so if you get to 12, you've honestly and thoroughly worked that, then you'll have all those principles as part of your identity. Many of us exclaim, what an order, I can't go through with it. Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We're not saints. The point is we're willing to grow along spiritual lines. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholics, could not manage our own lives. Write a 1 next to that. That's step 1. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. Step 2. And 3, that God could and would if he were stopped, which is C. So if you look at those kind of reference steps 1, 2, and 3, leading us into step 3. So now we're at step 3. So being convinced of those things, now we're at step 3, which is we decided to turn our will and our life. That's the $1 million question. Will and life. What the heck does that mean? Who knows what will and life means? Because we're about to decide to do that. I mean, I guess it'd be pretty appropriate to even identify what... Well, faith is the principle that's associated with it. I'll tell you. So your will, so right where it says will, write thoughts, and our life is actions. So now what I'm deciding to do, remember in step 2, I asked you guys to write some spiritual characteristics you believe God or your higher power to be, identify them, and some morals and values you want to live by, to be a good father, husband, son, brother, to live like my 10-year-old, my now 6-week-old was by my side at all times, to be loving and sober and honest and forgiving and tolerant and understanding and committed, right? And trustworthy and live with integrity, right?
Pure heart.
Pure heart, dude. Love's a good higher power. How do you reflect love? Well, you got to practice all those characteristics. So now I'm making a decision to let my actions reflect it. Remember, I'm a drug addict. I got the alcoholic mentality. My first thought's usually wrong, and when I react to situations, it's typically character defect. Now that I put a couple days together, I can react in plenty of situations in character asset because that's my go-to. But when I get to step 3, I do not have the luxury of reacting to anything. So this gives us the ability to focus our thoughts back to our step 2 homework, to our belief in God, that power, to make sure that our actions reflect it. And when they don't, I correct it. When I lie, I correct it. When I lie, I correct it. When I lie, I correct it. Right? And over a period of time, I don't have to correct it anymore. So we're channeling our higher power, because the lack of power, that was our dilemma, right? So we're channeling this power for strength to focus our thoughts on those spiritual characteristics and let our actions reflect them. So your will is your thoughts, your life is your actions. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
So now we know what we're deciding to do, right? I'm deciding to let my actions reflect my belief in God, which at bare minimum is character assets. Love, character assets, positivity, and gratitude. That's, easy description of God's will if I want it. It's a simple program, I don't have to overcomplicate it, right? Okay. And just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? So the third step's got a couple different parts. Typically it's the actor scenario. A lot of sponsors will have you, write out the actor scenario, change it into your book into first person, I statements, and read it to a bunch of people. That's typically a go-to thing. I do that occasionally with some of my guys as well. I like to break it down into a few different parts. The actor scenario, the 100 forms of self, and the lead up to the third step prayer. So if you want to label this part, this is the actor scenario. All right, the first requirement, being convinced that any life run on self-will could hardly be a success on the basis we're almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. So even when my motives in active addiction are the best motives I got, I'm always in collision with something or somebody. Even in my best moments, I'm always in collision. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, the rest of the players in his own way. If people would only do as he wished, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. So if everyone would just do it as I wanted, if mom would just give me money when I asked her, if my girl would just let me come home at 4 a.m. after being gone for 3 days and not ask any questions, everything would be good. If my boss would let me take 3 hour-and-a-half long bathroom breaks, right? Everything would be great, dude. If my PO would just let me get high, everything would be good, right? I want everyone to do as I wish, and I believe that if everybody did that, the show would be great, everything would be fine because it's your fault. I have to blame everyone for my actions because it allows me to continue my negative behavior because it's mom's fault, it's my girl's fault. I'll show you. I'm going to go to prison for 8 years. See what you made me do. I'm going to be homeless now. See what you did? Should have let me back in the house, Mom. Never mind your wedding ring. I still don't know where that's at. Got the pawn slip in my wallet. Because I'm getting it back. I ain't never got nothing back ever in my life. Alright. So this next part, I want you to underline the characteristics. And there's a couple different parts in here that I'm going to explain it in a way that I can pretty much guarantee that 99% of you guys will know it. You'll be able to relate to this part a lot easier, okay? So here we go. So underline the character assets and the character defects. There's going to be 2 parts to it. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor may be sometimes quite virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. But on the other hand, he's mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. As with most humans, he's more likely to have varied traits. So here's a good description of that. When I got a pocket full of pills and heroin, I am kind, I am considerate, I am patient, I'm generous, super generous, right? But when I wake up in the morning dope sick, I'm mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest, right? Who can relate to that? I got all the time. How many times you usually run with one dude, right? You run with one guy out there, you guys are boosting together and getting high together and screwing over as many people as you can together. You guys think you're best friends for like 3 months. You know what I'm talking about, right? So come 7:45, you guys have been up for 3 hours dope sick, right? And let's say you got that Pisa Connect, right? Where you don't turn the phone on until 8 a.m. It does not matter, but you're calling 7:45. Brother, call him, man. You don't even want to talk to your homie anymore. Don't talk to me. Call him. You call him. I call him, man. I called him last time. Fuck you, right? Dude, you can't stand this man, dude. As soon as you get the dope, dude, all of a sudden you start doing the dance. You're like, hey, brother, how the kids? Shit, everything. Yeah, brother. You know what I mean? You guys are best friends again, dude. Right? When I'm not high, I'm mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But when I have my drug of choice, then I'm all those other things, the character assets. Right? And if I could hustle up some money for a hotel room, Motel 6 Premier Inn, dude, I'm calling all the homies like I'm big dogging it. I got that room one night. Come through. Been there?
I have.
Okay, yeah, I like you. All right. So what usually happens, the show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think life doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more. He becomes on the next occasion still more demanding or gracious. Circle demanding, circle gracious. So now as my addiction progresses, there is no in between anymore. I'm either super gracious or super demanding. There is no middle ground. I'm either real high or I'm real low. Still the play doesn't suit him, admitting he may be somewhat at fault. He's sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, and self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Underline the next sentence. Is he not really a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? Here's another good example of that. Let's say a homie over here comes over to my house, right? I'm on deck. He's dope sick. He comes over to the crib, right? He's like, hey Jay, I gotta get well, dog. I'm like, dude, don't even trip. Here you go, bro. You're like, I'll boost you whatever you want, dude. I'll pay you back. I'm like, dude, I got you. I just want you to feel better. Don't even worry about it, right? In that moment, I'm trying to be kind, 100% wholeheartedly. But best believe, 3-4 days later, I'm gonna call you, be like, hey, remember that time, brother? Hey, what? But you better, hey. Don't sneeze, don't cough, tear minds off, brother. You remember that time, right? So even when I'm trying to be kind, I'm still a self-seeker. There is no way, dude. Can you guys relate to that?
Yeah.
All right. Remember? Not even remember. Remember? Okay.
Remember this shit?
Yeah, remember? Right? Is he?
I don't remember.
Nah, brother. I'll call you right back. Yeah, phone's off. Is he not the victim of the delusion he can wrest satisfaction, happiness out of this world if he only manages it well? Is it not evident to the rest of the players that these are the things he wants? And do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show? Underline the next sentence. Is he not even in his best moments a producer of confusion rather than harmony? So even when we got our best moments and when we think we're in our best moments, and for the tweakers out there, dude, you guys, you got some best moments, you got some plans. I'm gonna get the work boots, right? Then I'm gonna get that job, and then when I get that job, I'm gonna get that car, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this, I'm gonna flip that, throw some salt in there, not a big deal, right? No one will know, not a big deal. I'm gonna go to a neighborhood I don't know, got that sea salt, right? Right? We're still producers of confusion, never harmony. So when I call mom talking about them work boots and this plan, I'm gonna take over the world, get back on my feet by Monday on a Sunday night, she's like, dude, what? But I think I am sharp. All right. Our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. He's like the retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine in the winter complaining of the sad state of the nation. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. Politicians and reformers who are sure all would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him. And the alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up. Whatever our protestations, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, our self-pity. So I actually break this down into 2 parts. So I would refer to this part as the 100 forms of self. And typically I have guys that I work with underline everything that has to do with self, selfishness, self. Because that's our problem. Selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that at some time in the past we made decisions based on self, which later put us in a position to be hurt. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. The alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, alcoholics must be rid of the selfishness. We must or will kill us. God makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Many of us have moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we couldn't live up to them even if we tried. So there it is again. We've always wanted to be good fathers. We've always wanted to be good friends. I've always wanted to live with integrity. I've always wanted to be committed. I've always wanted to be honest and trustworthy. I've always wanted to be all those things, but the facts are my actions reflected something totally different. So when I would get sober and I would feel again, I would see those actions, feel those actions. I don't like the way that feels. Drugs and alcohol are the solution. Don't think, don't feel, don't care, right? I don't have the power to connect to that. We talked about now, we agnostics. So again, the morals and values, we list them in step 2. It doesn't matter what your higher power is, those spiritual characteristics. We're making a decision right now to let our actions reflect it, channel that power to create some change. The consistency will create an identity of one we can be proud of. And the rest followed by the rest of the steps of figuring out everything we need to do and having a spiritual experience, carrying the message to another alcoholic. And man, when you remove the obsession, you'll know it. You'll know it. Okay. All right. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing on our own power. We had to have God's help. So this I would refer to as a lead up to the third step prayer, and it is powerful. This is the how and the why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. Why? Because it didn't work. Next, we decided hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal. We are his children. He is the father. We are his agents. Most good ideas are simple. This concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch to which we passed to freedom. When we sincerely circled that, when we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things follow. Why? Because we had a new employer. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him, performed his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, little plans and designs. More and more we became interested in seeing what we can contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. We were reborn. Woo! That's the business. The key word is sincerely. Sincerely took such a position. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him, performed our work, his work well. In my experience over the last 4 years of some change, not only has he provided what I needed, but everything I could possibly want in my life. His work for me is to be of service, to be loving, to be sober, to be honest, to be tolerant, to be forgiving, to be a good man, brother, son, father, right? To have gratitude in any situation, to be positive, to be kind, to live in character asset to the best of my abilities, admit when I'm wrong and make the amends and own my shit and clean it up immediately, and to be caring and loving and understanding. And when I live my life that way, every single thing that I could possibly want has been provided to me, in needs and wants. But I got to sincerely take this position. Everything in this program requires action. It's a program of action. You can't just make this third step decision right now, or when you sit down with your sponsor and think that all of a sudden because you decided to do something, I decided to go to the gym, but I haven't stepped foot in the gym. Do I think I'm going to get any results? Because recovery is just like working out. I got to get up and do it every damn day, even when I don't want to. I got to hit sets, I got to hit reps, I got to put more weight on, and I got to keep at it, even when I don't want to do it. Because just like working out, recovery is the same way, like I said. As soon as you stop doing it, you lose it. It's the same thing. So I got to hit sets and reps of God every day, dude. Experience spirituality, dude. Help as many people as I can. And in return, the blessings rain down on my life. The promises materialize over and over again in my life. And I don't want to change the way I feel. It's one thing to believe in God in step 2, but it's another thing to experience that power in your life. And when I get to experience that power, it's a far greater feeling than any drugs or alcohol. I still like the effect produced by drugs and alcohol. I still do right here, right now. But what I like far greater is effects produced by God. And that shit's got legs. That shit lasts all day long, man. Got legs. Like that red spice, huh? Got that red. Yeah. What color is it, brother? Oh shit, ain't got no legs. You know what but that's the truth, man. Oh, dude, I can't stress to you, like, it's just a fact to me, man. Never have we seen a person fail. Sincerely take such a position. Everything I could possibly need and want. And now that leads us into the third step prayer, dude. The third step prayer, dude. Really understand what this means. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I will help with thy power, thy love, and thy way of life may do your will always. Listen to this thing, dude. God, I offer myself to thee. Build me up. Do with me as you want, as you will. You got me. Here I am. I'm deciding. I'm your vessel. Do with me. Build me up. Take away my difficulties. That victory over them. Let every single person in my life, family, friends, every single person in here, every single person in the fellowship, every single person everywhere bear witness to your power. When they see how powerful you are and you perform a miracle in my life and people get to watch that when my family sees me and they don't even recognize me, I become visual proof to them how powerful you are. When they see that, I'll be able to help them with thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. Hold up. Let me soak that in for a minute. That's what this thing's all about, dude. I got the goosebumps, dude. I used to be on the yard. I sponsored 100 guys on the yard, and we would go out there in the middle of the yard, dude, get down on our knees in the middle of the yard, dude, do the third step prayer, and it never failed me. I always get the chills every single time that I do it, because every time I do it, I'm sincerely taking such a position. I've let God, my higher power, my belief enter into my heart. He's performed a miracle, and he uses me as a vessel to help others, and they get to see that power. You know, I was running around the yard sucked up like a Safeway chicken, dude. For real. They call me Crackhead Jason. No joke. That's how bad it got. That's the truth. They don't call me that shit no more. I don't shine shoes no more, brother. You know what I mean? What movie? Nobody?
Goodfellas.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. All right? Yeah. But guys, I really want you guys to really understand that, you know, because this third step is the beginning of the change, man. This is where it's next we launched on a course of vigorous action. From this sincere position that we're taking, the remarkable things that will follow, now this belief will launch us into the fourth step of vigorous action. Remember, we'll talk about the fourth step next week. Vigorous action, energy, intensity, force. That's what vigorous means. It doesn't say take your sweet ass time. It's a vigorously, strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves which have been blocking us. But soak that in, man. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed because we got a new employer. Do your work well, do your job well, and the blessings will rain down on you and your family, dude. I can promise you that, dude. And I hope I get to witness a miracle in every one of your lives, and everyone that you know will see that change come over you, dude. And when they see that, you'll be visual proof to them that it can work, and then you'll be able to help them of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. So that, my friends, is the third step.
Yeah.